Hey, this is Bonton Farms. My name is Ariel Johnson with 40 Acres News Media, and we're very excited to share our interview with Daron Babcock with you today. He is the visionary behind Bonton Farms. However, there would be no farm had his perception of money and wealth not changed. You see, he comes from a corporate jet-setting lifestyle, meaning he had everything. However, he lost it all due to alcoholism, moved to this community to recover, and met people within a community who were dealing with some of the same demons. The difference, the desire for change.
I'm glad you mentioned that with regards to diseases that are common to a large population in this area. And because they're common to a large population in this area, it's almost like a form of genocide.
Yeah.
My grandmother is from Louisiana. I was born and raised in New York. Both of my parents are from Louisiana, but they met in New York and decided we're going to have a baby here. That was me. But in the summertime, when I would visit my grandmother at about 6 or 7 years old, I can recall a guy coming through the neighborhood, the block, in a truck. His name was Mr. Snow. And he was able, for those that couldn't afford, he had some sort of credit system. And I can recall my grandmother saying when I went to visit, I said, go in there, you get whatever you want, baby. Yeah. So, because this neighborhood was a food desert before you arrived, I'm trying to figure out if that's even legal. And when you know the majority of people don't have transportation, they don't have access or funds to board the dark bus, it's not for free, that you wouldn't have something coming through here on a regular basis with the things that they need, knowing what their issue is. So I know you have, I know, and I think they use the perfect word when it says emissaries from other areas in Dallas that are aware of what the issue is. But my question is, what can we do on top of what you're doing in terms of partnering with other people in this neighborhood to make sure it's more like in terms of nutrition and the importance and how a change in a diet can, I guess, baby, just obliterate some of the diseases, some of the things that people are taking medication for that are causing them to be drowsy and such. Then how do we get that message across about nutrition?
Yeah, I think it's
to more people.
Yeah, I think the thing is these things are tied together. So I really believe one of the things we get wrong is we isolate these issues. The food desert issue is not a food issue; it's a transportation issue. That transportation issue exists because of poverty. If you unlink those, we're having the wrong conversation, and it leads to failed outcomes. So you have to go back to the root of it. Was why are we so many people in our communities like this poor? Right. And then what do you do about it? Right? And so we're taking that into our own hands. We don't have to be a victim of anybody anymore.
Right.
So I think we need to stop lamenting what's happened and get ourselves together and say, when we join together and work together towards a common end, if we understand the root of it, not jumping in midstream and talking about a food desert, because that's not the problem. Right? If we address the root of it, then all of these things work together, because by addressing the root of poverty, you build economy and you bring food, which is what these things do. These generate business. We have 45 full-time jobs here now, created in our community of Bonton. When's the last time we've created 45 jobs in the hood, right? I mean, and it's just starting, but it's a way to get to the root of the issue, because the people that work here now have wages, and guess what? They're working all day, so they get home tired, so they hire somebody to mow their yard now. We've started 2 landscape businesses that are owned by people in the community that now there's people here needing their yards mowed. Whereas before, I had all the time in the world to do it. Why would I hire somebody to mow my yard? We have one of the guys we helped get through barber school start his barber shop here, because people don't want to go outside the neighborhood to get their hair cut. Well, now those dollars circulate in our community. And so I think if we have hard conversations to get to the root cause of the issues and not follow the eye candy of food desert as just an issue that doesn't connect to the others, we can start to do this in our community. And the answers become, it doesn't solve a poverty issue or an economic issue to put a grocery store in a food desert. But that's what we always talk about. Why won't the dang grocery stores come to the food desert? We really don't want them here. We want to start our own neighborhood market that's owned by our own people, that generate jobs and income for our own people, and address the health issues.
Not only do you not want to be here, but they'll look at an area and they'll look at what the medium income is, and they'll be able to determine from there whether or not they can move there.
Right.
So that's why it doesn't exist. But one last thing. First, I'm going to mention, and you don't have to comment on it, but that Bonton Farms actually has a raw honey that you can get when you come here. I'm going to be doing another video where you'll be able to take a tour with me, and we'll see everything that's here. If you're in the vicinity, or at least if you're in Dallas, you should definitely make this a trip, okay, while it is available. Our plan is to make sure it's available as long as it can be available, and what I mean by that is with the COVID-19 restrictions that are being imposed around the country. I'm from New York, so I subscribe to the New York Times, the New York Daily News. I get it 1, 2, 3 as soon as it comes out. So I want you to know, if you're not already aware, that they're shutting down indoor restaurants in New York. And I've been trying to figure out for the longest time, if you got a sign outside the door that says masks required to enter, and then you seat your people or they seat themselves, table of 10, you're saying that you don't want us doing any social gatherings at home. Not to mention there's going to be a big gourmet restaurant opening up tomorrow on Wednesday in North Dallas. And these people are ready to go, with the social media blitz and cameras and whatnot. Then what sort of message, in your interpretation, are we sending to people, other than the fact that, this is the United States is a corporation and we got to put money into the economy. What are we doing?
I don't know, Ariel. I think that's a great question. And one of the reasons why we're so divided on this, like everything else, is the message has been so convoluted. And so I can go to Walmart. So restaurants, people gather, right? And you wear a mask when you walk in the door, and then when you sit down, you take it off. That makes no sense to me. We're in Walmarts and Targets and going shopping in stores, and you can't avoid people. There is no way. They're all in your business. I mean, they're filled with people. But yet you can't have family over for Thanksgiving. There's conflicting messages. And then a lot of our leaders tell us how serious this is, and then go out and do exactly against what they've said to do. So the message to us as citizens is just confusing. And so you have some people thinking this is a conspiracy, and others thinking everybody's going to die from it. And that creates a division and animosity among us, and we're at each other's throats about that. I've had COVID. It's a real thing, and it's a strange thing because my dad got it, was 84 and was fine. I had only a headache for a couple of days. My wife was really ill and still, after weeks of being off of it, still hasn't fully recovered. So it's different in everybody, and nobody understands that fully, but it's to be taken seriously. I think it's that convoluted message that has us not knowing the right thing to do or how to go about doing it. And I think as business owners, as people that are trying to help drive economy and keep people employed, we just have to be adaptable.
Okay.
And it's still going to be hard, but we need to be nimble and adaptable and adapt so that we can survive. And those that are able to adapt, I think will make it, even though it'll be tough. And if you kind of stick to your guns and do what's always been done, it's probably going to be a hard.
Right. How's your mom? Is she doing?
My parents, 81 and 84, and they both handled it well.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying. It's so unpredictable, and that's why we need to take it so seriously. Is there are young, healthy people that'll die from it, and my elderly parents managed through it just fine. I had it and it was almost like I didn't have anything, but there was a headache for 2 days that no aspirin or anything would do. It wasn't normal, so I got tested and I had it. My wife was down and still struggles, so you just don't know.
Look, one last thing. I know I said COVID-19, but you're such an interesting person, and I'm enjoying the conversation. But this honorable exchange program, you mean I can come here and learn how to raise a chicken? I got the light, right? The guy said, you coming back? Because we got a general store in downtown Garland. He said, when you gonna come back for your chickens? I was like, let me go get a couple books from the library first. and then I'll be back. And I even held a couple of chickens. I said, okay, this one likes me. He turned around to look at my face. I was looking at his booty first. But, so, you mean I can come here, right? Mm-hmm. Whether I bring my chicken or not, or I just observe.
Well, you can't bring your chicken.
You
know, because animals carry, it's almost like what you hear about the colonizers, right? They would go to a new place and bring disease, and it was just that people group hadn't been exposed to it before, so they hadn't built up any antibodies. And farm animals are the same, so you have to be really careful about getting animals together from different places, because we don't do antibiotics. So if we get something, our chickens just die. We don't use any artificial anything, and so we have to be careful about that. But the honorable exchange is basically an idea because in our country, our culture has told us that we're only as valuable as how much money we have in our pocket. But people are way more valuable than any currency they can have. And so why, if you show up here and you need food, would I turn you away because you don't have money? You have other things of value. I have an old lady that fought me over this when I first started this farm because she thought this was a community garden. And I said, no, ma'am, all the people working out here get paid. And in order to pay them, we have to sell what we grow. And she's like, well, I don't have any money. And she was upset. She'd come walk down this way without taking anything home. And I said, but ma'am, you don't have to go without food. We're getting ready to harvest food for a restaurant. If you help us harvest food for a restaurant, we'll give you your food. We call that an honorable exchange. She said, oh, honey, I'm too old to harvest food. And I said, well, what do you do, ma'am? And she said, I love my church. And I said, oh, so you're a praying lady? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, we need prayer. Would you sit under here and pray for us, and we'll go harvest your food? And you know what? She still comes here to this day. And the thing is, how many times we have those conversations and people think they have no value because they have no money. But everybody has so much to offer. It's just, and the life that it gives people of knowing that I'm valued here and that my value I'm able to exchange for stuff. I think that's a rich idea, and it goes back to how if you talk to the older folks in Bonton, they'll tell you that Bonton's always been poor, but it was rich in the beginning. Because it was rich in community. It was rich in people trading what they had for things that other peoples didn't have, and together we made it. And somehow that culture's evolved to where we look at each other as what we can get from you instead of how I can serve you. And we're trying to bring that old idea of community back to our community. And I think you see that happening. And some of that, Ariel, I think is because we created spaces for people together that are safe, and through those interactions and sharing meals together, people start getting to know one another again well enough that I know that your son's in the hospital and I need to bring you a meal over. And those connections without gathering places like this are hard to make.
Look, I really appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am.
I have not been here in about a good 2 years, and what I'm going to do, treat myself to something here at the restaurant this morning. And I just want everyone to know that's listening and watching right now that I will return within a few days, possibly next week, see what we can schedule. And we're going to do a tour. We're going to see what we can see, and we're going to learn what we can learn. And wherever you are in the world, you should be able to apply some of these life skills to your own life. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're going to see me shaking his hand. I do apologize. I don't know what happened to the camera. In fact, I don't know who comes to my house when I'm not there. And just a lot of wacky things going on with the camera. It's okay. We will make it through this like we've made it through everything else. And Mr. Babcock himself is a walking, living example of that. Okay, adversity, I think a lot of times brings the best out of a person. So,
you know, one of my favorite quotes, because my life hasn't been a clean line, is that good sailors aren't made in calm seas. You know, I want to die a deep man. And to do that, you have to go through stuff. And so I've learned to embrace those challenges, like what you were saying. It's just an obstacle. How do we overcome it means everything. And maybe that's could be the most important thing we talked about today, because we are in a time where racially we're at each other's throats, politically we're at each other's throats. This disease or pandemic has got us not knowing what to do and at odds with one another. And I think if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And if we could embrace those struggles and come together and figure out how we get through them together, I think things would be better.
Hey, this is 40 Acres News Media, and we want to thank you so much for tuning into the second part of our interview with Daron Babcock, who's the visionary behind Bonton Farms. Before you go, remember we need your support. Simply like our links on social media. We have 40 Acres News Media on Facebook, Instagram, and also on Twitter at 40 Acres News. Thank you so much. Take care.